Kevin Steele. He has been hired as the next defensive coordinator at Alabama. Kevin Steele, he was the former defensive coordinator for Miami. He had one season there under Coach Cristobal. He's been coaching in some capacity for 39 years at the college level. He started out as a grad assistant for Tennessee back in 1980. He's also had multiple stops at his new home at Alabama. This will be his third time there. He's been an lead assistant to the head coach and also defensive coordinator and player personnel coordinator. So he's very familiar with the program and very good friends with Nick Saban. That was probably a huge part of this hire. His defenses also tend to perform very well under him. He's coached some of the best defenses in the SEC over the last 10 years. He had stops at LSU and Auburn for about 3 or 4 seasons as defensive coordinator. Physicality and toughness, that element, this is going to return to Alabama. I know a lot of the fans in Tuscaloosa, they're wondering where that's been. Really, it's been probably since Jeremy Pruitt has been there. Because Pete Golden, his defenses were fast, but they just didn't have that physicality that you'd expect from an Alabama defense. So I expect the physicality and toughness to come back under Kevin Steele. And from what I've seen and read, he runs a very multiple defense. That means his defenses are very flexible and versatile. Knowing Coach Saban, I expect a mainly like 4-3, 4-2-5 defense. With offenses these days, you rarely ever see a 3-4 or a 4-3. A lot of teams are running the 3-3 stack or a 4-2-5. So I expect Saban to keep that defense that he's been running for so many years. And there's some pros and cons to this hire, in my opinion. Some pros are Kevin Steele. He's from the Saban tree, so there's a really good track record of Nick Saban hiring guys from his coaching tree, coming in, running his style of defense, and doing it at a very high level. He's an older coach. He'll bring back the physicality like I talked about. He's not one of these new, like Pete Golding. I guess we can say Pete Golding. He came from UTSA, and it seemed like Nick was trying to run his stuff, like run Saban stuff, with a little bit of Golding in it. And Pete Golding was running more of his stuff without the Saban, and that goes right back to my point. It just didn't look like Alabama was Alabama these last 3 or 4 seasons. 2020, they won the national championship, but their defense wasn't great. It had great players, but overall it wasn't great. It wasn't like 2017, 2016, 2012, 2011. It wasn't one of those great defenses. And then scheme familiarity, I think that's going to come in handy here. Kevin Steele, Coach Saban, they're going to be on the same point. Going to be on the same track at all times. And Kevin Steele being an older guy, like he's not doing this, oh, I want to go be a head coach somewhere. I'm going to use Alabama to get a head coaching job. No, I think this is just to go back where he's familiar, run a defense he likes, coach some really good players. #1 recruiting class coming in. I'm sure that was enticing. And his relationship is already built with Coach Saban too, so he's not going to have to come in and prove himself. And Coach Saban's not going to have to babysit him and check on him and say, are you doing this? Are you doing this? Is this how we're running practice? Is this how we're preparing for games? No, he's going to know how this goes. He's been in the SEC before. He's coached on LSU, 2016 LSU, I believe, 2015, 2016. And Alabama LSU had some very good defensive games. Nick Saban praised Kevin Steele a lot back in those years as an opponent. That's very important as well. There's some cons to this as well, this hire. He may not be the recruiter he once was, Kevin Steele, that is. I was looking at Miami's 2023 recruiting class, and there's only about 1 or 2 guys that Kevin Steele can really say I was the primary recruiter for. Now, I don't know how much of a deal this should be because Alabama has a great staff. They have a lot of good recruiters. They just signed the #1 class without 2 coordinators, if that says anything. I think the standard for Kevin Steele as a recruiter, even if this is like his only season there, or if he's there for 2 years, I think he just needs to go and get 1 or 2 highly rated players a cycle, and that would be good enough for me if I was an Alabama fan. Because he's gonna put in the effort on the trail. It's just whether or not his old style of recruiting is gonna pay off with NIL. I mean, recruiting's changed a lot since Kevin Steele has had some very good players come in that he recruited. He was the primary recruiter for. And Coach Steele, he could ultimately be just a placeholder. That's why this could be a bad hire. If he's just a placeholder for a year, for a guy like Jeremy Pruitt, who's waiting for the NCAA to say you can coach again. I don't know if that's gonna how that's gonna bode. Like, is that gonna be a good thing for the program, like culture wise? If another defensive corner is coming in, I know that they all run the same scheme, so that's a good sign. But for Kevin Steele, like being a placeholder, that's just kind of a bad look, in my opinion. But nonetheless, I think Jeremy Pruitt would be an outstanding hire. That'd be a home run hire. If after this upcoming season, Kevin Steele decides to retire or just step away from Alabama, so Jeremy Pruitt can come in, if and he knew that, hats off to Kevin Steele. I would respect that. If is just doing this to help out Coach Saban, that's big time. And the last thing, experience factor may not matter as much because college football is evolving. Like I said, Coach Steele, he's been coaching for 39 years. Alabama just hired Tommy Rees as offensive coordinator. He's been alive for 30 years. And Tommy Rees is the offensive coordinator. That's my point. Like, does experience really matter that much in these days? I don't know. That it's going to be determined this upcoming season. We'll see what Alabama's defense looks like. But yeah, Kevin Steele, he's headed to Alabama. 1 year at Miami, headed to coach under Nick Saban.